I know.
All right. Do I have a motion to begin the Gordon Burnell Governance Council regular meeting on July 17th at 4:01 p.m.?
I'll move that we commence the July 17th Gordon Burnell's Governing Council meeting at 4:01 p.m.
Thank you, Deb. And do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sabah. All right, so we're going to do a quick roll call. So hello, my name is Martha Hughes, and I am the Governance Council President. And I'm going to pass it off to Beth in the room for introductions.
Thank you, Beth Dorado, Director.
Deb DeTore, member.
Diane Hensley, Assistant Business Manager. Chris.
Christopher Moore, business manager, but I'm just filling in for Sammy for this meeting.
Erica Rivas. Erica Rivas. I'm taking notes.
Chris Cazone, I'm the administrator at NBC.
And Jody.
Hi, this is Jody Brichet. I'm a board member.
I'm Tina Martinez. I'm a board member.
And I think there's just me, Sabah Jadi, Governance Council member.
Tina Charmaine is joining as well if you want to wait for her to acknowledge.
Hey, Charmaine, thanks for joining us. We were just doing a roll call, so if you wouldn't mind going ahead to introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Charmaine Carter here, board member.
And I think we had one last one. Dallas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dallas Griego. I'm the special education teacher / reading interventionist at North Fourth Campus for the high school.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We'll move on to our next item. So approval of the agenda. So thank you, Beth, for having that pulled up. Do we have any comments or questions before we move to approve? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting agenda for the July 17th meeting?
I'll motion to approve our agenda for today's meeting.
Thank you, Sabah. Thank you, Charmaine, for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. I forgot that with the call to order, so it's like you're gone a month and you already forget. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward to last month's minutes. Any comments or questions on the minutes from last month's meeting?
They were well done.
I would say just, I don't know if it matters that much to do a quick correction before we approve, but under the meeting date for this month, it listed the 19th, and it should be the 17th. So it's at the very bottom. I guess July 19th.
There you go.
Awesome. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the June 2025 Governance Council minutes?
I motion to approve the governance 2025 minutes.
Thank you, Jody. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Go, Charmaine.
Thank you, Charmaine. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. We have passed the minutes. And I'm going to pass it off to Beth for, I don't think we have any outside guests aside from our staff members, so we'll pass it off to her for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Martha. I have the pleasure today to introduce to the board Dallas Griego. She's a fairly new staff member. We've been doing this for enough time now that we've cycled through all of our older staff members, and now we're getting to meet some of our newer hires. Dallas just finished her first year with us. We hired her as a reading interventionist with funding from APS Title I specifically for reading interventionists. And I don't know why we've not had a reading interventionist on our staff all along, because maybe we were just waiting until we met Dallas. But when we lost with that funding did dry up, it was not renewed. But Dallas in her position had such an impact on students that we found funding to keep her and would like to sustainably maintain a reading interventionist position moving forward. Many of our students do struggle with basic literacy, and Dallas has the tools and the experience to kind of understand why, and that's super important as another tool in our toolbox in terms of helping students make progress with their goals. Besides being really good at her job as a reading interventionist, Dallas really jumped into the community. She's always ready to help plan spirit days or field trips. She works really well with the high school leadership at North Forth, signed up to do policy work this summer. And so she's very much has that work ethic and that commitment to our mission, and is always signing up to do the extra step whenever there's something to be done. So super excited to have you here today, Dallas. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Beth. Like Beth said, I am the reading interventionist, and I just love Gordon Burnell Charter School. It is finally given me the opportunity to do what I set out to do with my career. I've always wanted to just dive in and help students, right? And that's what I've always wanted to do. And in the past, working at different public schools, I loved my job and I enjoyed it, but I never felt like I was actually able to not only educate my students, but help them become model citizens, in whatever capacity that it was. And throughout this last year, I felt like it was the first time that I was able to, following our mission, provide safe spaces for our students to create goals, work towards their goals, help them along the way when they developed any hiccups or anything along the line, and just really become successful. And when I attended graduation this year, it was the best feeling ever, because I was able to see our students just be so happy. I don't even know what there are no words to say. It was just a special moment because I got to see our students have their day. It wasn't because of anything else, but it was because we were able to provide those spaces for them and help them reach their goals, not only academically, but life skills and just everything along the way. And I just really appreciate that about Gordon Burnell. And I can't wait to continue progressing through.
Thanks, Dallas. I forgot to mention, we're like, we need a reading interventionist. And so we found the funding for it. And then when it's hard to keep up these days when we talk about funding, right? Because then shortly after that, we found out about the Job Corps closure. And so then we got worried. We had an open position for a special education teacher. And rather than fill it, uncertain about how our numbers are going to pan out without sustainable Job Corps contributions, we decided not to fill the empty special education position we had. And Dallas agreed to be both special ed support and reading interventionist at this campus. And we sent Simon Gutierrez, who was our special ed person here, out to MDC. And so if the numbers are high enough to warrant that we do fill that empty sped position, then we will. But we wanted to be conservative in hiring new people when we're uncertain about what numbers will look like. So it's just another example of how when things got, a little tricky, Dallas stepped in and said, nope, I can do that. And so she is licensed as a special ed teacher. She wasn't in that capacity last year. And moving into this year, she'll take on some of that special ed casework role as well. So just another example of how Dallas is always pitching in and helping the community. And thank you so much for joining us today, Dallas. Some board members may have questions or comments, and then you're welcome to stay if you want to, or you can disappear after that as well. But thanks again, Dallas.
Thank you.
It's really lovely to meet you, Dallas. And yeah, thank you for the work that you do with the students and for the school as a whole.
Mhm.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, very passionate. Her students are lucky. I agree, Shirley. And they gravitate towards her. You don't imagine that they want to be doing a bunch of remedial literacy stuff, and yet they do, because Dallas makes it fun and engaging, and so appreciate it, Dallas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm actually going to step out because we're heading back from Crucis, but I appreciate your time and thank you for allowing me to be here today, everybody.
Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's always a highlight of the meeting, and was surprised to meet a new staff member. It seems like we should know everybody, but then somehow there's always somebody new. So that's exciting. All right, we're gonna pass it off to Chris to go over our finance documents.
So thank you very much. And I'm getting them pulled up right now. Sorry, my computer had a minor stroke while Ms. Dallas was speaking. So 2 seconds while I get this report up and then we'll go over it.
Yes.
Do you want me to
Good
try,
time.
Chris, or is it on its way?
It's on its way.
Okay, because it will take me a minute too, but if you're,
I'm there. It just my Adobe decided to crash, so I had to just reopen it.
no worries. Take your time.
I'm gonna go
And
ahead
maybe
share
while
my
he's
screen.
pulling that up, Beth, would you like to talk about the updates with adult ed funding?
Sure. While, because I'll interrupt Chris at some point to share some of these things. I want to talk about adult ed funding and federal funding as a whole, because it's not just adult ed. Our adult ed fund is the largest affected. There is a federal funding freeze, is how we're describing it. My understanding is the state of New Mexico received estimated awards in a variety of areas. They call them GANs, grant award notifications, GANs. And so they had received, the state of New Mexico from the Federal Department of Education had received projections, and they were expecting them to have budget authority over several funds, July 1. And June 30th, were notified that they were frozen, for a better word. And so there is quite a few funds that are both on the PED side and the HED side. On PED, Title II isn't flowing, Title III isn't flowing. Those are the two that affect us. They're not very large. Perkins isn't flowing. That's a federal fund related to CTE. AFLA isn't funding. That's the big one. AFLA being the Adult Ed and Family Literacy Act, out of the WIOA funding, that's not flowing. And that is a large percentage of every adult basic ed's funding stream in New Mexico. It was about $150,000 cut for us, and I don't have other funds to cover it, so it was a little bit scary. Amber Gallup, the director of adult basic ed at HED, worked very closely with the governor and found temporary emergency cash to make adult basic ed programs not whole compared to what we were expecting, but to soften the blow. There are no adult ed programs in the state that are at a reduction from, we were all expecting increases because the state had allocated a lot more money. We're not getting those increases as much, but we're also not having cuts this next year compared to last year. But that is not sustainable funding. That is not recurring funding. That is funding that the governor has approved because she sees the need to invest in adult education. Amber said pretty clearly that there is no expectation of going backwards to the way things were. Adult education as a field is going to evolve in ways unknown. The federal government may fund something like it through the Department of Labor. At least there are rumors that that might happen. Nobody here is holding their breath for that. And it was reiterated many times in a adult ed directors meeting yesterday that many people are feeling very grateful for the state of New Mexico. States like Ohio, Indiana, and New Jersey have never had state matches. So to lose their federal funding, they are closing doors and programs. And there is no emergency bailout. And so in New Mexico, the state has always matched federal funds and in recent years has even invested more than that. And so, you know, Amber feels very strongly that we have, as a field, a future in New Mexico. But she doesn't anticipate it'll ever go back to the way that it was with a predictable federal funding that you can rely on year after year. So it's crazy times. It's back and forth. It's hard to keep up. Sammy and I get letters over the last couple of weeks. It seems like weekly that we've lost some big stream of funding, and then letters weekly about some new opportunity and something new. So right now, you know, we're precariously okay, but it is weird times. So, thanks, Chris. And I don't know if anybody wants to comment or question on that before I hand it back to Chris.
Just to clarify, Beth, did I understand that none of the title federal funds are flowing?
That is correct. We got a memo from Secretary of Education, PED Secretary Padilla, this week that they do not have budgetary authority. They did not receive their GANs, their grant award notification. I'm gonna go a little bit into like I'm kind of. I want to preface my next couple of statements as this is my current understanding of what happened, and I could be incorrect. But what my understanding is that there have been many executive orders, right, that the current president administration has signed, and many of them have been contested in court.
Right.
And there were injunctions in place to stop them. And then in the very end of June, the Supreme Court ruled that a judge who cannot do a national injunction, the judges can only rule in their districts. And so if it's not a federal court doing an injunction, then more local courts their rulings cannot apply nationwide. So the Supreme Court passed that, and then a day or two later, a whole slew of executive orders that had been stopped by judges around the country flew through again.
Right.
And so the reason, again, this is my understanding, this is not necessary, I want to just be very clear that I could be wrong. My understanding is the reason that Department of Education funding is not flowing now has to do with the different states of their compliance with the new civil rights conditions. So like New Mexico didn't sign that we won't serve students without a social security number. So we're in a violation of that new interpretation of the law. And so they're withholding funds. And again, that's my understanding, and that may not be the exact case for every funding flow or, you know, across the board. There may be different reasons why Title II isn't flowing. Do you know what I mean? But we did get a letter from Secretary Padilla that they don't have budgetary authority, and that even if we got letters awarding us money from the state, not to expend that money because they can't honor it because they've not gotten the awards from the feds that they were expecting.
Okay. All right. Thanks
So
for that
again,
clarification.
there's a lot of interpretive lines in that dialogue, and some of them could be misunderstandings on my part, but certainly many federal funds are frozen for a variety of reasons, and they all froze immediately after that Supreme Court decision that local injunctions can't be spread nationwide.
Plus, Beth, didn't the Supreme Court rule that he could fire all the members of the Department of Education, which
He's
in this does
dismantling.
away with the Department of
He's
Education.
dismantling the.
I think it's dismantled.
It's done.
If everybody's gone,
It's done.
again, labor's taking over, But that's what I read, was that they were doing away. He got the okay for the Secretary of Education, who knows nothing about education, that's just me, to fire everyone.
There's nobody there to send the
There's
money.
nobody
out.
there, right?
There's nobody at Octave above adult ed. Again, there is talk that they're going to restructure education under the Department of Labor as a workforce development
Right.
arm of the government. But I don't know how long that will take. I don't know if there's funding or if there's just oversight. But what they're talking about is oversight, that there is no more federal Department of Education, and that oversight is going to move to the Department of Labor, because education is really just workforce development in the eyes of this restructuring. I have no idea what funding will come through. In current federal budgets, there is no funding for things like AFLA or WIOA or these titles.
And so if this is all tied up in courts, is there a date that is scheduled for all of this to come before a judge?
Tina's being so rational. With this.
I would love to say that I think again, we're moving into my personal opinion, and I want to be cautious with that. But I think a lot of what's happening is a quick barrage of so much that we can only respond to some of it. And some of it's gonna get caught up in courts, and some of it's gonna be overturned in legislation eventually. And some of it's gonna stick and land because there wasn't enough hands to catch all of this. It will take generations to figure out what's happening, is my personal opinion.
That's what I read in the paper as well, Beth. Nobody seems to really know what's going to happen, but the money is not flowing. That's the bottom line, and there's nobody in Washington to help it flow. So even if they think it's going to come, there's no mechanism now for the money to come to anyone, which is really a mess.
The state of New Mexico has sued over the lack of the Department of Education's recent actions. I know that 22 other states, there's 23 states last time I looked that are on that. But again, timelines, outcomes,
So logistically, without all of the federal funds, are we operationally able to continue on?
Our biggest federal fund is adult ed. And for the SY26, the state has found emergency funding to supplement. Things like Title II, Title III, they're helpful. Perkins, they add up all together, $25,000, $30,000 annually for us. That's manageable for us. The journal said APS is down like 12 million without the titles. And they're gonna get let go about 75 people APS because of not getting the titles in the last few weeks, specifically certain sections of Title I, Title II, Title III. And so larger districts, you go again, if they're percentages of budgets. Gordon Burnell, there are bumps in the road for me right now, right? Like we're okay. But larger districts will certainly redesign programs and let lots of people go.
Yeah, okay.
On that note, Chris.
Thank you, Beth. All right, well, let's just go through the financials like normal. We did go in greater depth. Sammy did go in greater depth with the finance committee right before this meeting. But of course, if there's any questions or if y'all have any comments, just kind of stop me and we can address them. First off, I just wanted to highlight this. These were all the approved bars that were y'all gave Sammy blanket bar approval. It's just, to submit bars super timely as there's tight deadlines at year end and things always come up. A couple I just wanted to highlight real quickly. 211 universal state funding. This is like the state portion of the meal reimbursements. You did see a slight increase, $2,446. Then similarly with adult ed, you'd received additional allocations. So, and this is for fiscal year, last fiscal year, right? Because this is reported out as of June. But this was an increase to finalize that fund.
You just thought you had it.
Oh, he's moving it.
I zoomed in, but
She tried to make it bigger.
No,
Do I need to make it bigger? Is it small?
it was a little small for us, but I think we'll be all right. Thanks,
Okay.
Chris.
Yeah, I'll make it a little bit bigger.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Like I said, we did go in bars in greater detail at the finance committee, so I'm not going to go over each one line by line. But if y'all have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm going to go ahead and get to the meat of the report. There we go. It's the one that everyone wants to see. This is first off, this is going to be our expenditure report. Firstly, in operational, we ended with expenses of $3,380,667.21. That left 27% of operational on the table, so it's going to roll into the next year, which is fantastic. And you can kind of see right here, our total spending by fund, 2,100, you just fully utilized, 21,100. That's about 50% utilized, but those are both cash funds, so they're going to flow into the next year. Title funding, you had healthy amounts of spending on these funds. There were some complications with Title II, and we did discuss it in the finance committee meeting, but yeah, it just happens. Similarly, we had similar problems with Title III. But CSI, a healthy amount of spending. IDIB, just the entire fund was allocated. Outdoor learning grant, the full grant was utilized. Adult education, full grant was utilized. This 28211, this COVID-19 testing program, just about fully utilized. You notice over here, SB9, HB 33, not a ton of utilization, but those are both capital funds that are going to roll into the next year. So we're not in any hurry to spend those monies. Looking at revenue, you can kind of see here, we received a good amount of revenue, at least as of June 30th. Obviously, there's about 35% that were still outstanding from APS, PED, and various other authorizers. We can't submit June RFRs early, right? So we submit them at the end of the month. So we do expect to get those later on, in July, August. Sometimes it takes them a couple months to process. But overall, we are seeing good revenue across all fields. Sammy did want to highlight expenditures did jump up in June. This is typical. You can see on our graph, we usually see an uptick in expenses in June. This is where we prepare all of our summer payrolls and all that posts to our books in that month. And so, even though we're paying our folks out through the summer, we got to post them in this fiscal year because we're using this fiscal year dollars to pay them. So it is a trend that as you can see, we see historically, we see an uptick in spending. Nothing too devastating.
Can I interrupt really quick, Chris?
Yeah.
I just want to, the last time that the larger board, Locke talked about, this end of year spending, we did make some conscious decisions to try to spend down our cash balance in anticipation of a possible cash balance sweep. We were warned by a variety of people, from lawyers and accountants in the field to legislators themselves, that if the federal budget did not include Medicaid, that we might be looking at a special session and a cash balance sweep. The big beautiful bill did pass, and it does cut Medicaid, but not until 2027. I cannot predict the future. Anything could happen, but I no longer believe that's even a possibility. It was only an option if they were going to try to save New Mexicans October 1st, if Medicaid dropped immediately. Since that's not the case, and it's actually several years before we see that, then my anticipation is that the legislature is going to discuss and decide how to handle that in a regular session, and we'll have a lot more notice that things might go awry. So while anything could happen in today's climate, and I certainly don't know what will or what won't, I'm no longer considering the possibility of a cash balance sweep. So as I said in the finance committee, I'm grateful for Sabah and his leadership that we didn't put more than we did towards the building and try to spend things down, because now we do have that cushion and flexibility in our cash carryover as we move into these uncertain times. And again, anything could happen, But because Medicaid cuts are not happening in 2027, and that was the leverage point in which a cash balance sweep might occur, I no longer think that it will. So I just wanted to share that with the larger
thank
board
you.
as well.
I have to echo that sentiment. You know, it would like the entire state was concerned with the cash sweep. But all those rumblings have gone away. I'm also of the opinion that there's not going to be a cash sweep. I could like me and Beth could both be wrong. They could release an email tomorrow, but I highly doubt that it would happen this year. If anything, it might happen next fiscal year or the one after that. Awesome. I won't spend a lot of time on this page. Your spending by function and object remain pretty much identical with what we've seen historically. You can kind of see here, your largest expense is in the classroom, instructional support. And then your largest expense is compensation and benefits. It makes up 50% of your budget, or excuse me, 50% of your expenses. And that has remained consistent throughout the entire year. We've seen a general downtrend, but we've remained, Gordon Brunel has remained very consistent. Right now, your operational fund liquidity is 5.83. A lot of this is attributed, like Beth said, the spending in June, you know, it's trying to spend down that cash. I think at one point y'all were at 11 or 12 months cash liquid.
We
So
were.
you're not, yeah, so not so crazy now, but you're still in an extremely healthy cash position. I have some districts that would kill to have 5 months of cash reserve, so not a bad job at all. All right, this right here is just a more detailed report on our spending. And we did briefly talk about Title II. There was a plan for Title II. Unfortunately, it had fallen through. So unfortunately, that funding was unutilized. Title III, similar situation. It's extremely difficult to spend Title III. The grant, the way it's, or that federal fund, the way it's written, it makes it incredibly difficult to spend because it's ultra specific. And actually going into the next fiscal year, APS isn't even allocating Title III anymore. They're just going to send everyone to professional development or work on the approved expenses on their own side because everyone struggles to spend that money. So I did definitely wanted to highlight those two. Perfect. Is anything on this Beth before we move on, or do you think we're good there?
I think we're good. Thanks, Chris. Anyone else, please feel free.
Does I do.
We'll real briefly on your bank reconciliation. These are all your account summary report. I'm so sorry. There were a couple of large expenses that were highlighted in the finance committee. First, right here, this one to CES for $85,000. This was part of the resurfacing project. And then right here, $100,000. This was an advanced lease payment to help spend down cash. So both of those were highlighted. Were there any other transactions we wanted to highlight, or are we good with those two? Those are the really big ones that are like out of the usual, like what we would normally spend. Perfect. Well, I'm gonna scroll down. I'm not gonna go through every account summary report. These reports feed our graphs above, so I'm not gonna make y'all stay here for the next 2 hours to go line by line.
Thank you.
I just wanted to skip down to the bank reconciliation eventually.
Didn't we just have one check that was weird?
And we reissued it, so now we have no checks there.
Oh, good.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to pull up, but I just got to go through 50 million account summary reports to get to it.
There somewhere.
There we go. Here's the bank reconciliation. So the bank account you ended with $1,909,767. These are all of your disbursements that hit the bank account. So this is all the money that left our bank account in the month of June. We specifically wanted to highlight outstanding checks. Right now, you don't have any outstanding checks more than 90 days old. Per statute, if they're over a year old, you do look at audit findings, but you're nowhere near that territory, so no concerns there. It does sound like there was a reissued check. It sounds like, and that's pretty typical if they go stale. But looking at this, and this is what the auditors will look at, you are 100% in compliance. So it's a really good position to be in. And here's that voided check right here. Speak of the devil. All right, aside from that, I didn't have anything else. Did anyone have any questions or anything else that we wanted to go over? All right.
I don't think
Well,
so.
that's it for
Thank
me.
you for the overview, Chris.
Appreciate you, Chris. Thank you so much for stepping in for Sammy.
I'm no replacement for Sammy, but I can fill in once in a while.
We certainly appreciate you. Thank you. If we want to do, finance related action items, it's usually what we head to next, Martha.
Yeah, so our first action item is the approval of accounts and payroll vouchers. So do I have a motion to approve our accounts and payroll vouchers?
I'll motion to approve our accounts and payroll vouchers.
Thank you, Sawal. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have approved our accounts and payroll vouchers. And then was I correct in understanding that our budget adjustment requests were covered from last month?
We don't have any
So-
bars in the new fiscal year because there's nothing really set up yet to move around.
Okay. So I believe we do have to table it since it is official action item. So do I have a motion to table the approval of budget adjustment requests?
I motion to table the bars.
Thank you, Sawa. And a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jody. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have tabled the budget adjustment requests until next month. And I think that's all for what we've gone over so far. So we'll pass it back over to Beth for her
I think I'm hitting it. Is that okay?
Thanks, Diane. Yeah, problem.
thanks, Diane.
Thanks,
Take care.
Mom. Hi, everybody.
And I have to apologize to Martha. Martha and I meet the week before the meeting to kind of do the agenda, and I threw this one in on her once I started to put things together. You did approve a salary schedule, I believe it was in May for the year SY25. And I have an updated version for you, and I'll explain why. If I can just get to wherever it is I'm going.
I thought.
So it's part of the back and forth of life these days. We updated our, wow, I apologize for the up and down really quick. Why is it not in here? Here it is. We increased our salary schedule for PED levels 1, 2, and 3 by $5,000 for the next year as mandated by the legislature. So minimums went from 50 to 55. And what we've always done is so these are our PED licensed teachers on the high school side, our EA, our assistant principal, and our principal. Our adult education instructors, in our very first year, we said, we're about equity and we're gonna pay adult ed the same that we pay our K-12 teachers. And that was unsustainable because the funding just is not equitable. And so, what we ended up doing after year one is having 2 levels of salary schedules for our adult ed staff. HED level 1 just requires, as by state law, the minimum of a high school diploma and then the experience necessary to teach the equivalency. So anybody without a PED license, no matter what their education level is on the HED level 1. But our staff members who do have a PED license but want to teach on the adult ed side, we have a differential too. And we've always aligned that, or at least the last few years, with a PED level 1. In the salary schedule that you approved in May, we weren't sure that we had enough money in adult ed to give that $5,000 bump to everybody. So we waited. And then we got our adult ed letters, which were substantially higher. And so we went in and changed this. And then we lost a bunch of adult ed money, and then we got a bunch of adult money back. So I like the idea that our HED level 2s are aligned to PED level 1. We are the highest, to my knowledge, at one point. This could have changed. At one point, I was told by HED that we were the highest paying adult ed agency in the state because we aligned with PED. That could have changed because that was a little bit ago, and it's been a big push of the state to increase salaries across the state for adult education providers. And so this new salary schedule bumped up adult ed by $5,000 as we had done in the last one for PED. And Martha didn't get the rundown on this one, so sorry, Martha, I snuck this one in on you. But I was like, oh no, it's not on the agenda.
Totally fine. Yeah.
So that is that. I wanted to kind of go over some of the other finance. Oh gosh, sorry. I gotta slow down and think about what I'm doing here. Too many things open. It's gonna be here that I get that. Perfect. Other things that I just kind of wanted to talk about in terms of financial, there's the salary schedule, which is an action item. And then I don't know, Martha, we tabled contracts and purchases over 60,000 last time because Michelle was unable to get into them, and she wasn't able to come today. But that is also an action item that we can talk about. And we do kind of need to make decisions about them because they'll be in effect before the next meeting. In addition to the contracts, our level 2 and level 3 teachers who are above 60,000, there are a handful of new ones as well, or recurring ones. And every year those purchase orders require your approval as well. Rachel Matthews, K-12 accounting, NIPSIA and LDD, I didn't provide links for. Those are all recurring contracts. The LDD is our IT support, NIPSIA again is our risk insurance, K-12 our business office, and Rachel Matthews our lease. Those are all renewing. I do have one new purchase order above 60,000 to Ed Connective. They are an instructional coaching vendor at the national level. We did open with a cooperative procurement, so we're in alignment with procurement because it's over that 60,000. I've worked with them in the past. They have coached individual teachers for me in the past at recommendation of another school, and we're really good partners. This year, every instructional staff member is going to get a coach. And so what that means is both adult ed and high school will be matched with a coach. They're going to meet with their coach regularly. They're going to record themselves working with students, and they're going to then review those recordings with their coach, working on both engagement in our really unique situation, as well as planning to meet students' needs in our really unique situation. And so we're using very specific funding that is attached to our designation. So we get CSI MRI funds that is about improving our outcomes. We get $150,000 from that fund, so this will not come out of operational. It'll come out of that specific fund, which is about improving student outcomes. And we couldn't think of a better way than investing in the professional development of our staff and helping them really be reflective and responsive in their practices. I'm gonna keep going and just kind of hit all the financial ones, Martha, does that work? And then we can do associated action items.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay, so just kind of this top part of the report. I did give an update on Job Corps. We don't know. We don't know. There was 183 students on that campus on June 27th when Carl Adams, the Senate director, got the memo to start sending people home. A lot of students left immediately. As of the last time I talked to him, he still had 55 youths on campus. They don't have anywhere to go. The 130 who had somewhere to go with no promise of certifications or any of the things they signed up for kind of coming through, many of them left, and they're still serving Again, a much smaller population, and we expect those students to be here at the beginning of the year, on the 28th. They won't be here next week, but they'll be here the week after. He has no idea what is going to happen. He's promised that he'll be the last one out with the kids that have nowhere to go. It makes me tear up. But that's stinky. I gave you some staffing updates. We can certainly talk about that. And things just never seem to change. Very sad to say that Larissa rescinded her acceptance today. She had a medical emergency. She can't accept new work in the middle of. So I offered that position to someone else who also interviewed, and she's considering. So hopefully we'll be able to fill that as quickly as possible, considering we do start next week. I talked about our funding. I'm continuing to submit applications for a variety of PED under the line things. It's weird times. I'm just trying to take it as it comes and not be reactive and wait to talk with Sammy and make decisions that we can. I did tell staff members and continue to tell staff members that right now their salary and benefits are sustainable, but that we are we are public workers, and the public service infrastructure is rapidly shifting, right? And so I don't know what that means. I've had some real hard conversations with some staff members, that if they feel like that something comes along that is feels more sustainable and less scary for their families, that they should consider taking it. That's why we've had some shifts since even our last discussions about staff. We have also had some shifts, just not necessarily about worried about sustainability, but just I mentioned in here that Ani has separated from Gordon Burnell, as did MJ. Both decisions that were kind of made mutually in terms of kind of some uncrossable situations. I think that it's the best for all parties, and I'm happy to give more details if I need to, but people come and they go, right? And that's part of what I'm trying to just be comfortable with and acknowledge, right? That people are going to make all kinds of decisions for all kinds of reasons.
I was surprised about MJ.
Things happen. Martha, do you want to pause and talk about the action items that are related to finances, or do you want me to just plow through and we'll do all the items at once? What's your preference?
I think we should go ahead and address the action items we just went over so that they're fresh in our minds in case we have any questions on them. So the first one up there is the approval of the updated school year 26 salary schedule. Did anyone have comments or questions on the updated schedule? No, okay. I think it's really great that you're able to do that for your adult ed staff. I'm sure it's very meaningful to them. All right, do I have a motion to approve the updated school year 26 salary schedule?
I move we approve the 2026 salary schedule.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jody. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have approved the updated school year 26 salary schedule. Then the next one that we talked about were approval of contracts and purchase orders above 60,000. And so new ones were linked in the director's report if you need to look at those again. There were also the new staff salaries for those who are over 60,000. Do we have any questions or comments on those? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the contracts and purchase orders above $60,000?
I motion to approve the contracts above $60,000.
Thank you, Jody. And do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Tina. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have approved the contracts and purchase orders above $60,000. All right, and we'll go back to the director's report.
Thank you. On to compliance and operations. We do have a couple of things in here. One is actually annually as a board, you get to review the Open Meeting Act as it applies to this governing body. You know, Martha and I looked at it very closely when we met last week. I don't think we made any changes, did we, Martha?
Didn't we?
We updated the fact that the meetings are now recorded. So that was a slight change that we put in there. And then just made sure that, you know, the years, the dates matched up.
So pretty much, you know, as a reminder, if you didn't get a chance to look at this real closely, there are laws about this open meetings, that they're open to the public and that they follow these rules. And this is just the outline of those mandates.
And Beth, probably the most important part for us is to remember that if we have a quorum, the email things and stuff like that, make sure that we're careful with that.
So exactly, thank you, Deb. The sticky point, the place where sometimes boards get into trouble is those rolling quorums. So that's why if we're on an email chain, if I don't explicitly say it, it's a good reminder. You can always reach out to me directly. You can always reach out to Martha directly. We can't speak even in email if there are more than 3 of you in the same space. That's called a rolling quorum. So you can't email back and forth in the whole group about board business, you know, things like I'll be there, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? But if you're asking questions about something or you want to, so it's good practice just to not reply all when all board members are on a meeting, unless again, it's just kind of RSVPing. I don't think that that's problematic, but beyond that. And then to just be really aware that you can't have more than 3 board members in a committee or, you know, kind of related to this. Anytime I invite you guys to something on our website, is where all of our agendas and board meeting minutes go and recordings. And so anytime that you are all going to be somewhere, I post within the appropriate of 72 hours, right, that you're going to be at graduation, but you're not going to talk board business. Or you're going to be at training, but you're not going to talk board business. So if there are more than 3 of you in a space, then the public has to be aware and has to be able to hear and see what you're doing. So that's pretty much your Open Meetings Act stuff. So that is that is an approval item. And then other compliance things. Of course, we're gonna continue to talk about a 5-year strategic plan. I might have left that language the same from last month. I'll try not to be so repetitive. I always link my Monday morning memos. And hopefully you're able to get into all of these links. If you ever struggle with that, please let me know. Sometimes I have discovered that if you're just asking for permission in Google itself, sometimes I'm not the owner, so it may not come directly to me. So if you're struggling with any of my links, please reach out in an email and then I can address it very quickly and make sure that you have the access that you need. And then professional development. I am going to pass off the mic to Chris Cazone. I was super grateful that he led a policy committee this summer. I was certainly around and stepped in and out, but he, a staff member from Northforth and a staff member from MDC, spent about a week really looking at all of our policies and procedures and updating our handbooks. And I'm going to pass it off to him to talk about. And Chris, if you want me to open things and show them, I can, or I can just stop share.
Yeah, I could, if you wouldn't mind, am I able to share right now?
Yep, I'll stop sharing and you can start sharing.
Cool. So anyway, we worked on, it was more like a week and a half. There was a committee, then we worked on pretty much 3 documents. And I know you guys got a copy of the student handbook and the employee handbook, but there's also something called the operations manual, which isn't really a manual. And I'll get to that. It's easier if I show it. So let me share my screen and we can go through them real quick. Okay, does everyone see that?
Can you make it bigger? It's itty bitty.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna start with I'm on the wrong tab anyway.
Student handbook.
Okay, so basically we did a bunch of things. It was pretty dense and it was incomplete and it was kind of ugly. So most importantly, we gave it a facelift. We gave it a nice cover. We reformatted everything, gave it a different font, made it easier to read, get some space in there. So we made it less dense and at the same time more complete. So we wanted something that'd be user-friendly, both for students and employees. And we wanted to take out the mystery of, the things that were missing in there. So both of these documents, the student handbook and the employee handbook, are now updated with all new policies, with all the stuff that's been added over the year, maybe the last couple years. I'm trying to think what's new in here. We also added pathways to graduation was at the end. And I think that's been approved at another point during one of your meetings. So that's the student handbook. Here's the employee handbook. Looks a little similar.
Can I jump in really quick?
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that I was really grateful for that the team did in terms of the student handbook is it used to be very much the high school student handbook for North Fourth. And if you took time to read through it this time, every section differentiates. This applies to high school. This is how it applies to adult ed. This is how it applies to MDC. So now this is a document that can be used across programs and campuses, which I'm super grateful for. It was in my mind, it was previously just for that subpopulation, and now it really addresses all populations. And then I also just want to point out that there's no new policy in there at all. It is just an incorporation of any policies that you have passed outside of the handbook since the last time it was revised last summer, and some language in terms of accessibility, but there's not anything like that changed in terms of this is a new policy.
Yeah, when I use the term new policy, I'm meaning the policies that you guys approved over the last year or so.
Yeah.
Because it was missing some of that. And especially the employee handbook. So we did the same thing there. We made it look easier to find things. We took out a lot of the dense language. And at the same time, there are links in here that go to the operations manual. Like right here, it'll say, if you want more information, you can click here and get a more in-depth review of this particular policy. And that's throughout the handbook. And we didn't want to clutter this down with another 5 pages of stuff that was kind of legalese to read and tough to read. But it's all available. And in the past, all these things existed on our shared drive, but nobody knew where the hell it was. Half of us did. I think Beth was the only one who knew where everything was. When we get the operations manual, it'll make more sense. So the employee handbook is, like I said, it's cleaner to read. Everything's up to date. And there's references to what I call the operations manual. So that's what looks to you probably right here. And I don't think I need to enlarge it, but there's a bunch of tabs at the bottom, and it's really a storehouse of policies and procedures. So a lot of the procedures we're not going to put in the employee handbook because the procedures change all the time. And these aren't policies that you guys approve. They're just procedures for how to recruit students, how to do onboarding, there's a million things. So we've organized this, and this operations manual isn't quite a printable manual, but it's a placeholder for a program that we've purchased called Carina. I think you guys have gone over Carina before, but that's going to be like an online employee portal. So most everything in here is being organized so it's kind of a blueprint to how we're going to set up Carina. And that's going to happen over the next couple months. Martha, you got your hand up?
Yeah, thanks. I was going to go back real quick to the student handbook and ask about the phone policy, because I know that was something new that the state required. And last month there was a question around
confidentiality,
sort of not outing students, who can who need to access their phones under their IEPs. And so I know that it does now have the caveat around, you know, aside from certain times of day, emergencies or in IEPs. Beth, was there anything else that you wanted to like let the board know around that question since it came up last month?
And it is on our agenda as past business.
Mhm.
And my intention, I'm certain we'll go through, make sure we touch everything on the agenda, was to keep it remained on past business so that we can return to it. I know that Michelle specifically had a question about that, and I'm hopeful that Chris Pauls can help us answer exactly what that's gonna look like. And he's off contract and not been around to kind of get his opinion on. So I still think it's a valid question, and something that I'd like to leave on our agenda as past business so that we can return to it with Chris and for Michelle and the rest of the board as well, with a more thought out response.
Okay, great, thanks.
And Chris, I wanted to say that I appreciated in your student handbook how I felt like reading it, it involves your community and that your mission, our mission, you could feel throughout reading it that the students were primary. And I really, really appreciated reading it that way.
Cool, thank you. Thank you. I'll be kind of brief with this operations manual because this is a work in progress that we're going to be kind of importing into our Carina setup. But there's a tab at the bottom where there are references from the employee handbook. So if somebody needs to get more information on like anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy, for example, they can come here, click on it, and get all that legal language if they really want to go through it. And in the past, they would have to.
It's just, it's more.
Yeah, not that.
If something happens where we need to have real specific directions from the lawyer.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. There's also a tab at the bottom for board approved policy. So we went through, I think the last 4 years and just made sure everything was on here that you guys approved. So they could go through it instead of having to ask or find documents and emails or find it in the shared drive. It's all right here. And then we have a tab for resources where we have our safety plans in there. And then there's tabs specific to each campus. We're still kind of working on North Fourth, but at MDC, I got that pretty much done. So as you can see, there's all kind of procedures on there.
And these tabs are less policies and more procedures, right? And we've really honed in on the difference between those two words. You know, policies are the why we're doing things. They require board approval. They really provide the justification for, you know, this is the decision that we're making. And then procedures are more the how does that get done? And those things don't necessarily or absolutely do not require board approval because they need to be responsive. It's leadership's kind of guide rails for implementing the policies that the board passes. But it's really helpful, right, to kind of have these guides all in one place that's campus specific. So super helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there are things that we print out for students like student rules, and that changes occasionally. We have wired spaces where you can find out exactly what's wired for Gordon Brunel in the facility. There's a list of approved student materials allowed in the jail, and all this stuff is constantly, you know, changing. Maybe not in a big way, but here and there, something gets added on or something changes, or the jail's always changing, so we change along with it. This goes along with like the safety plan too. We're constantly updating that. On the bottom, there's also a tab for special ed. There's a tab for business procedures. And then our safety plans are in there and our SIS procedures. So I guess that's all we can show you on this now, because once we get Carina going, this will transfer, most of this, maybe all of it, is going to transfer onto Carina. And that's going to be an employee portal where they can look up, find all the same information, just make it a little bit easier to find. And they'll also be able to fill out forms, do a purchase order, put their leave on the portal. Everything will be connected. So that's a quick overview. you guys got any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions on the student handbook, employee handbook, and the manual of operations? Right. Well, they all look really great. Thank you, Chris, and your team for organizing those and putting updates. I'm sure everyone will appreciate and take advantage of them. Also, I wasn't trying to wave you down for my question. I was doing my light dance too. So if you thought I was like anxious to ask my question, it was the
No problem.
lights. All right. Well, oh, sorry. Did somebody have something?
I was gonna say very quickly, Martha, it's Beth. I apologize for interrupting. Just how incredibly grateful I am for that body of work that I was not directly responsible for. I just want to say that that feels so powerful, right? That Chris is leaning into new responsibility. I'm not sure that it's necessarily been expressed in this space, although it's been documented in others. He's been previously, his title was an assistant principal, and he's taking on an increase in responsibility as a principal this year. It comes with a little extra money and a lot more responsibility. And this is one example, right, of like a really meaningful, heavy lift being done and being led by someone else. And so I'm incredibly grateful, Chris, for the work that you put into this and the product that you came out with. So thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Beth, I appreciate that. I'm also really learning what all the stuff Beth has to do, and I kind of lost my summer now too. But this work, it was a long time coming, so I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully you can have a really nice, relaxing weekend before school starts next week. Definitely take that time. All right, so let's go ahead and do I have a motion to approve the updated student handbook?
I'll move we approve the updated student handbook.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Charmaine. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have approved the updated student handbook. And now do I have a motion to approve the updated employee handbook?
I motion to approve the updated employee handbook.
Thank you, Jody. Do I have a second?
I
I
second.
second.
Thank you, Charmaine. And all in favor?
Aye.
We have approved the updated employee handbook. And then going back to the Open Meetings Act which Beth introduced as well. Any questions on that document or comments? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the school year 25-26 Open Meetings Act?
I motion to approve the 25-26 Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Charmaine. Do I have a second?
I'll
I
second that.
second.
Thank you, Jody. All in favor?
Aye.
We have approved the school year 25-26 Open Meetings Act. Very important because there was one year we didn't realize we had to do that every year. It came up during the audit.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
check. It's now on our handy calendar. Lets us know where we're at. All right. Anything else, Beth, from your report that fits under compliancy policy or performance?
I just wanted, we don't have a whole lot under performance. I did want to acknowledge in response to Tina's request. Last month, the director's report did have a brief explanation and several links to our current teacher evaluation system, a self-assessment, and kind of staff start with a self-assessment, meet with their direct supervisor to review it, set a goal for the year. There's both Chris and I have, it wasn't ready in time to put it in the director's report, but I do have a new org chart. And so we split staff fairly evenly in terms of, I think I have the lowest number of staff that I supervise, around 8 or 9. And both Chris's have between like 10 and 12, I think, of staff members that they're responsible for doing that self-assessment with them, setting a yearly goal for professional development, doing walkthroughs and observations throughout the year, having follow-up meetings, and then kind of evaluating progress toward those goals at the end of the year. Tina, I don't know, that was in specific in response to kind of a request to you to understand a little bit better about how we do that. I don't know if you had any questions or needed more information, or if that was sufficient in kind of giving you a glimpse.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. I did read over that, and the questions that I had kind of floating around in my head were answered. Thank you.
Awesome. That would be it for me, Martha. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, and so we're going to move on to board priorities briefly. So as we're starting a new fiscal year, as we learned during our training this past year, it would be great to have, our SMART goals aligned with board priorities, kind of getting them set early so we have lots of time. I know it was kind of just a few months to do last year since we had our training kind of in end of January. So I wanted to take a look at our goals that were supposed to be kind of through June and have a little reflection on them, as well as start to talk about our strategic planning / goals for this upcoming year. It's a little confusing because the document that Kelly had given us during the training was labeled a strategic plan, but it really looked, like it was set up more to be for SMART goals. And then Beth was informed that we do need a specific strategic plan that aligns with the school charter. And so that the charter is something we're going to be updating this year anyway. So it does make it a prime time to, make sure that we're creating both documents in alignment. I know that at the last meeting, you all discussed perhaps creating a committee around the strategic plan so we can really spend some concerted time around that and not have to worry about hashing it all out in our larger meetings. Is there anyone here who's thought about that a little bit, who might be interested in serving on a strategic plan committee?
What would the timeline for that be, Martha?
I kind of want to base it on, how we're working on the charter application. Beth, I know it's still not 100%, but what is your idea for the timeline of the charter application?
We will not submit our charter application until fall of 2026. We'll write a good chunk of it, leading into the end of this next year, and we'll spend this year kind of doing a lot of kind of visioning and brainstorming and just kind of processing of current data to see, where that goes. And so we're a year out from really having a new charter application even outline, right? I think I would like, by the end of SY 26, so by the end of the year in May, I'd love to have our charter application outlined, pretty substantially, and then just be working on language, in June and July and August, so that we can submit that in September. And have that ready. So ideally, the board, could take as long to kind of think about what that could look like. And as I said that, I thought, because the guidance really is that my charter application aligns with your strategic plan, that not necessarily that they're developed. It's not the opposite. It's not that your strategic plan aligns with my charter, right? It's really in the theoretical intention is that the board has a 5-year strategic plan, and that my charter application, my annual dash plans, my school SITM, school improvement transformation monitoring plan, that all the plans that I'm creating for different entities are all supposed to true up and line up with your 5-year strategic plan. So in reality, your plan is supposed to come first. Because you're supposed to have a vision for where the school should be in 5 years and what we're working towards. And then I am your employee. My job is to make all of my long-term, medium and short-term plans align with your goals. So nothing says that your strategic plan has to be super complex, has to be super long, has to be, a body of writing. But I am supposed to be doing my work in alignment with your goals for the school. So not your goals for the board. This isn't a strategic plan. What are the board's goals? What do the board want to get done? This is a strategic plan of what direction you want the school to go. And what's important to you in the long term.
So Beth, would it be possible that maybe they're online or we can figure it out to see what other board strategic goals look like so that we could sort of, I don't even know how to start to think about doing one that we could start working with something that's already written from a couple of similar kinds of places.
I think that's an excellent place to start. Be happy to reach out.
Secondary's charter would probably really sort of blend in with ours.
I think that would be a great first step, and I'd be happy to facilitate some reaching out to other schools and say, what is your 5-year? Can my board take a look at your board's plan? And I think most would be open to that, but I think that's an excellent first step.
Because I would be willing to work on doing it if I had a notion of a jumping off place to do it. I don't have any thought in my brain about how that would look, except for the strategic plan we thought we had that was goals. So
Yeah.
Which is the board, right? And this is literally a school plan, right?
Right.
That I align to in the work that I do.
Yeah, so a lot different than how we've been approaching our goals. And I do see them as two different things as well. Like I think we should still have kind of running board priorities that then also underlie, whatever 5-year plan we come up with. It was just the language of the document that we were given was a little, confusing then for which is which. But in terms of timeline then, Beth, would it make sense if we had the goal of finishing the 5-year strategic plan by the November board meeting?
I think that would be amazing.
Because like if you're planning on starting to kind of write towards the end, and I'm sure there's some things that like you can write without, the board strategic plan, but maybe that would give a good amount of cushion, so that if we finished a strategic plan for the November board meeting, and then if there needed to be any last tweaks to it or whatever, could go into December if needed, but.
I think that's beautiful. I think thinking about the board, having, something, formalized in this semester, November, December, I think that would be ideal. Sounds great.
So logistically, are you thinking one extra meeting a month, 2 a month?
Yeah, I would say maybe let's start with 1 extra meeting per month and, just to kind of get organized, get our ideas together. And then if it turns out that, as we're getting closer to needing to finalize it, maybe then we might add on another meeting if we felt like we needed a little bit more time. But yeah, I'm not looking to try to add a ton of time onto people's previous commitments.
I think looking at other, if we had one meeting to review some examples from other schools, a meeting to kind of brainstorm visioning, so if it was like August, September, a draft in October, and then a revision in November. Do you know what I mean? Something along those lines. I don't think it needs to be much more than that because you could also be working outside of a meeting time to contribute to that, but something along that might be a way to be done by then.
I know that I'm on another board and it's for a university and we had to write our same kind of a thing. And we got different ones from different departments at the university. And one really was very similar to what we wanted to do. And it took really only one other meeting to pull it all together. And we'd laid out all this time that we thought it was going to take, but this really matched a lot of what we were trying to do. We visioned how to make it more hours than theirs. And then it was very quick. Once we had a springboard, that's why I thought to ask for it, because all of us we don't have any idea. Most of us were new to what we were doing. And it really went quickly once we had somebody else's that had been approved by the university already, so it wasn't hard to get it through. It gave us the right words to put down, basically.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I feel like, Kelly has always been a great resource for us that we could, maybe even ask her to look over, the draft for us as well.
If this is going to be something that we decide to tackle in committee work, that's something that I can commit to if it's between like now and November.
Okay. Thanks,
And
Tina.
me too, Tina. I'll commit to
Okay.
helping with that too.
Okay. And I would plan to be there as well, unless there's somebody else who really cared, is passionate about it. Okay, and then we have to kind of limit it to 3, just because, yeah. But if somebody does, if you're thinking about it and you're like, oh, actually, I've done strategic plans before, I really want to do it, just let me know, yeah, and I'll let you slip into my place.
Or just
Okay.
spin their ideas.
Or ideas, yeah, let us know too, if you have ideas, and
thinking.
and maybe, something we could do during our board meetings monthly is just to have those little quick updates of like, what we've been working on, what we've been thinking, and get some feedback anyway. All right, and I'll email then Tina and Deb to see, what your availabilities are, and we can kind of start to kind of sketch out when might be best to meet in the next few months. Yeah, and try to. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just real quick, I would like to go over our goals from last year, partly just as a reflection, thinking about what we want to like continue to work on, as well as a celebration of the things that we have been able to get done. And so let me share my screen real quick. Right. As I move things around, I should be able to. Is it okay, or is it too small? To zoom. Okay. So the first one was really like thinking about academic outcomes. Part of it, we have changed the agenda and have been practicing that to really make sure that we are regularly talking about academic outcomes at the school, and doing a regular data review. And so part of the data review is we decided too that there regularly is data that's incorporated, especially into the director's report. And we don't need a separate schedule necessarily in our board resources. We have our board calendar, and that's kind of what I referenced of how we know to bring up the updated Open Meetings Act. So you can see there in that calendar what data we're going to review during which months. So if you do ever have questions in advance or wonder when we're going to go over certain things, I would reference that calendar. What are some reflections on this area? I know that's pretty basic, and folks, over the last few months did express that they felt like they were discussing academic outcomes more frequently, understanding the implications of them. Any other reflections that folks would like to share?
Sorry. Your virus, it won't do anything to turn off. Pardon my voicemail.
Are there other things that, is this a priority that we're going to want to continue over the next year and expand it or different ways?
I think that I've talked to people on other boards. I think Beth does such a great job, because Jody and I were supposed to work on a schedule for doing all those things. of keeping us informed of how we're doing academically and helping us understand how they're measuring. I want to continue knowing, but I don't know that we need to put the whole pressure of a schedule that at this meeting, you for sure got to tell us this, that, or the other, because it occurs sort of naturally within the school year for her to tell us what's going on. I don't know. That's just sort of how I feel about it.
And
I
then,
did oh, go ahead.
oh, also to have, to complement that, to sort of have some like background information about where these came from, where these different policies and what brought us to this juncture. I think that would be good, at least to have like some historical document about that.
Okay, so that kind of helps inform like our understanding of the academic outcomes, is to kind of know, why something was measured in the way it was, or what policies, indicated that we needed it. Also some of the background on, and I think that's another thing that you do really help contextualize the data, Beth. And so that's helped us understand and be able to communicate, the school's performance over time.
Yeah,
And this is, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sabah.
I was just gonna add, I think for me, like the important part of this goal is that we are able to communicate what our students are kind of achieving, since our like that primary stat of like graduation rates for us is always just going to be lower than other schools. For me, I think what's important is that Beth gives us the information so that we can sort of have our narrative of like what makes our school great beyond just the typical indicators.
I have to share, Sabah joined me and Sammy yesterday at the opening audit, the audit entrance meeting for APS charters. It was a mandatory in-person meeting, and so I was grateful for him to be there. And Joseph Escobedo had all 30 or 32 of his charters there, and he was talking about proficiency, and he threw up a chart of graduation rates, and he's like, do you know your graduation rate? Can you find it on this chart? And I was like, Sabah, we're the one on the bottom. Like, I don't even have to look. Like, we're the red one on the bottom. We do have the worst graduation rate. We've been at the bottom of the list at the state level for a long time on purpose. We choose to serve that population. Our students have aged out of their on-time graduation. And so the fact that we're at like 24%, it only indicates that some of our young people are graduating still in their cohort. The reality is we graduate, we consistently graduate about something, oh man, I used to know these numbers and I have them, I could pull them up, but we graduate like a quarter of our population every single year, and like 80% of our seniors every single year. They just don't count because they're old. And so again, to that note, but it was just funny because Sabah's like, where's ours? And I'm like, the bottom. We're always the worst. But we're proud of it because that means we're serving students who have aged out of that opportunity.
But also, Beth, what I like about it is you explained to us about like our individual learning plans and the percent of our students that are able to individually meet their goals to ultimately reach graduation. And I appreciate that. I understand how you do that, at how it's done at our school, so I can talk to other people about our school's achievement, because we do come out at the bottom.
We do. We can't go back in time and graduate people by the time they're 18.
Yeah, we don't get them till they're 18.
19, 20, 21.
Yeah, and so it sounds like people are feeling a lot more comfortable around the academic performance of the school, and it's something that will continue to kind of keep up what we have set in place. And I think as well as incorporate into more orientation for new board members, so that new board members feel like they are up to speed when they continue, because that was another area that we're continuing to work on. So our next priority was governance council recruitment and retention. So we're continuing to utilize our agenda. reviewing, updating, creating our tools. So I have touched base with Tina about a folder. It has some documents in it. She shared some wonderful documents that she got at a recent conference that we're going to go through a checklist and make sure that we have those documents in there that would be helpful. After that point, we'll share it with you, Tina, to kind of get your feedback as well. So we're a little bit behind with that one, just since I was out in June. That will be, you know, ongoing. And then, you know, something to still work on that could be a priority for next year is creating that succession plan, like having it be a little bit more fleshed out. Obviously, the big celebration was that we were able to get to 7 board members this year, which gives us flexibility for our quorums, which is great. I'll add those notes a little bit later just to kind of speed us up. Any other reflections or ideas on board retention recruitment?
I just want to acknowledge that your bylaws are hopeful that board members will serve a 5-year term, and quite a few of you are entering your 5th year. Your bylaws allow you to serve more than 1 term, and so I'd certainly be appreciative and grateful if some of you decided to sign on for additional years, even if it wasn't the full 5. But I also just want to acknowledge if any of our older board members are starting to think about transitioning out, my request is to be transparent and have those conversations with Martha or myself and really start thinking about how we might replace you and be an active participant in that process. I would be delighted if all y'all stayed forever, but I understand that things shift and change. And so some of our older members, I don't know if you've realized, but you're entering your 5th year.
Yeah,
And so if you want to renew, by all means, and if you're thinking about, stepping aside, please do let Martha know so that we can start to think about recruiting to replace you. So I appreciate everybody immensely.
Yeah, thanks for that, Beth. Yeah, so these, you know, this priority is definitely going to be one that we'll continue to kind of work on over the year and shift. The next one was that, we had also the goal that during this meeting that we were going to review our priorities and goals and create new ones. I think, just in the sake of time for today, what we're doing is the review process today that helps us get started for thinking about priorities and goals for the rest of the year. So I would say in August, if we have some time, we can start to think about some of them we'll have in place. We'll also have the committee working on the more fleshed out strategic plan, but I think it would be good to, again, have kind of 3 specific priorities for the board for this coming year, but there's no particular rush to create them today. We're kind of going over what we already had. I think one of our priorities will be around, the orientation and the succession, and we can further discuss. So start thinking about, what else would you like to continue to improve on? What would we like to focus on as a board in this coming year? And so some of these areas, we did do the self-assessment, earlier this year. So we talked about that together as a board. I haven't I still have our results on paper, so I'll make sure that that gets translated to a digital document that we have up in our resource folder. But we'll start to get, these will shift into August a little bit as well. I'll start putting them together, but any other thoughts, comments on this area? Okay, great. Thank you guys for your patience with that one. I'm glad that I know it was still, pretty brief and bumpy that we were looking at priorities just in the second half of the year. So we'll have more of a head start for this year. It's just a practice, and each year we get better and better. Let's see if I had anything else. The other thing on our future business that we'll also make sure gets added at some point is to review bylaws with a checklist. And that could be something too, if maybe one or two of us wants to take a look at it and do it on their time and report back to the group. That might be an efficient way of looking at it. All right. That's what I had for board priorities for today. Anything else come up for the board that they wanted to bring to the group? All right. So do I have a motion to adjourn the July Gordon Burnell Governance Council meeting at 5:35 p.m.?
Oh, good. I motion
Okay.
to the July Gordon Burnell Charter School meeting.
Okay, I heard Jody most clearly first, so thank you, Jody. And then a second.
Second.
Thank you, Charmaine, and all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all. This meeting has been adjourned at 5:36 p.m. Take care, everyone, and good luck with the start of the new school year, Beth. That's exciting.
We're
That's
with
exciting.
staff Monday and Tuesday and students on Wednesday. So here we go.
Awesome.
Let's
Yeah,
give it-
and to Erica and Chris as well. Good start. All right, take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.